In this video, I would like everybody to just put your emotions aside and listen to what I have to say. I want you to really think as we go through this. I want you to think. I want you to really take into account the things that I'm saying in this video. I know a lot of you guys who support Chris and Holly don't like me, but you have to admit that I am talking common sense. I just want you to consider what I have to say in this video. I think you'll find that I make a lot of sense with the things that I'm going to be saying. What I want you to think about is this. If you're supporting Chris and Holly, I understand that you want to help. I understand that there's a lot of people out there who are very giving, who want to try to help people. But we have to take into consideration in our helping people, what is it that we're actually supporting? If you're supporting them, what is it that you are actually supporting? I've got a list of 4 things here that I think will bring out what it is that you're actually supporting if you are supporting them. So let's get right into it. Okay, if you're supporting them, the first thing that you are supporting is basically anarchy. They claim to be sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizens. Basically, what that means is they're above the laws of the United States. That they're actually not part of the country and they're not subject to the laws. So what is the sovereign citizen movement? Let me read you some things that I found in looking this up that'll maybe help clarify exactly what it is that they believe. So what is the sovereign citizen movement? It is a growing movement of people who believe that laws do not apply to them, threatens police and law enforcement around the world, experts and officials say. So-called sovereign citizens believe they are immune from government rules. In other words, they don't want to be accountable. They want to do their own thing, break the laws however they see fit, and that they're not subject to the same laws that the rest of us are. It says the FBI has described the movement, which lacks any organizational structure, as domestic terrorism in the U.S. and calls followers anti-government extremists who believe that even though they physically reside in this country, they are separate or sovereign from the United States. It says followers resist all government laws and regulations, no matter how trivial, and in the U.S., often file lengthy legal battles against the government, which critics refer to as paper terrorism. Now, I don't know if I go that far as to call it terrorism, but says they sometimes film encounters with police using the phrases that they believe protect them, including, "Am I being detained?" Yeah, how often have we seen that in Chris and Holly's videos? It says followers are often struggling financially. Says this, the sovereign citizen phenomenon is one of the main contemporary sources of pseudo-law. Adherents to its ideology believe that courts have no jurisdiction over people and that the use of certain procedures, such as writing specific phrases on bills they do not want to pay, and loopholes, can make one immune from government laws and regulations. They also regard most forms of taxation as illegitimate and reject the use of such things as social security numbers, driver's licenses, and vehicle registration. Sovereign citizen arguments have no basis in law and have never been successful in court. That's because it's basically a phantom. Now, to me, the sovereign citizen movement is just an attitude of rebellion and an excuse to act like a jerk when you have to follow any rules but your own. It is not right, it is not biblical, and is actually in direct disobedience to the commandments of God, of how He's told us to be. How dare someone call themselves a Christian when they go against the direct statements the Bible says about submitting to government? This is a false Christianity, a false system, and it has no place in the life of a true Christian. It makes me absolutely sick when I see these people talk about Jesus, talk about God blessing them, and then act like the devil. Who was the first rebel? Who was the first person or being who ever rebelled? The devil. Was it not Lucifer who rebelled and fell and became the devil? When you go against the direct commandments of God, as plainly stated in Romans 13 and elsewhere, you are taking on the same persona as the devil. Don't you talk about being Christians when you are shacking up, stubbornly going your own way, doing your own thing, the same as the devil. You are not Christian. You are satanic, plain and simple. 1 Samuel chapter 15 talks about this attitude of rebellion. It says, has the Lord his great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices and obeying the voice of the Lord? Yeah, God doesn't care about the sacrifices if they're living in disobedience. God doesn't care about all the talk about, oh, God's blessing us and, oh, we love Jesus, when you're living in disobedience. He says, behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you're basically worshiping yourself. You're putting yourself and what you believe above the direct commandments of God and against what God would have you do. And you people who are supporting them are fostering this. As I've said before, you should be ashamed. Don't call yourself a good Christian if in your actions you are supporting the devil. Because that's exactly what you're doing by claiming to be sovereign citizens. So you're not only supporting anarchy, you're also fostering dependency. You're teaching dependency. It's one thing I found says this. It says, in one sense, enabling has the same meaning as empowering. It means lending a hand to help people accomplish things they could not do by themselves. More recently, however, it has developed the specialized meaning of offering help that perpetuates rather than solves the problem. So you're perpetuating it, you're not solving it. A parent who allows a child to stay home from school because he hasn't studied for a test is enabling irresponsibility. The spouse who makes excuses for their hungover partner is enabling alcohol abuse. The friend who lends money to a drug addict so he won't be forced to steal is enabling that addiction. Those who habitually enable dysfunctional behavior are often referred to as codependent. It's a telling word because an enabler's self-esteem is often dependent on his or her ability and willingness to help in inappropriate ways. This help allows the enabler to feel in control of an unmanageable situation. The reality, though, is that enabling not only doesn't help, but it actively causes harm and makes the situation worse. By stepping in to solve the addict's problems, the enabler takes away any motivation for the addict to take responsibility for his or her own actions. Without that motivation, there is little reason for the addict to change. Enablers help addicts dig themselves deeper into trouble. All right, that not only goes for addicts, it goes for this situation as well. Because when you keep supporting these people and never make them stand on their own 2 feet, you are promoting dependency. You are being an enabler. And dependency is never good. As long as people are dependent on other people for their sustenance, they will never change their behavior. They will never grow. They will never take responsibility for their own situation. Now, they've already sponged off their supporters for 5 years or over 5 years. At some point, you need to wake up and see what you're actually doing. You're causing more harm than good. At some point, you need to actually exercise some common sense and look at the bigger picture of what you're actually doing by continuing to enable and creating even deeper and deeper dependency. Because that's what you've done by supporting them for so long. You have created dependency. These are people who know how to work the system. These are people who know how to circumvent the rules to get what they want. By continuing to support them, you will just keep increasing dependency and fostering entitlement. Yeah, and what happens is they go from an attitude of gratitude to an attitude of entitlement. Have you seen the videos where Elion has gotten something, and if he wasn't getting so much stuff, he might be appreciative, but instead what he does is he's got it out of the box, looked at it, and tossed it. Said, I don't want this. So do you see what you've created? In fact, people have seen them take your gifts that you give them, take them back to Target, Walmart, or wherever, and return them for money. That, my friends, is entitlement. That is a lack of appreciation. That is an attitude of expectancy. And you supporters are guilty of creating that attitude. You are guilty of creating dependency. And as long as you keep supporting them, it will never stop. Never. It'll just keep getting worse and worse and worse. The third thing that you're supporting is child endangerment. Let's talk about the fact that they let a 5-year-old child operate an ATV that's much too big for him, thinking it's going to make him tough. And as I said before, that's just plain stupid. Just stupid. Not only that, you're endangering the child's life. Like I said, yeah, it's all fun and games until he accidentally flips the ATV and it lands on him and crushes him. And it happens all the time, people. It happens to adults. Much as a 5-year-old child. Let's talk about the fact how they leave Elion in the vehicle with a loaded handgun in the door pocket, right within his reach. In fact, the one picture that I posted shows his hands almost on the gun. Now, I'm not sure what the laws are there, but in most states, if you have a child in the home, that gun is to be secured in a lockbox. But oh yeah, I forget. They're sovereign citizens. They're above the law, even if it means the child accidentally shoots himself in the head. Folks, it happens all the time. I suppose him blowing his brains out will make him tough, huh? I wonder if CPS knows about the gun situation. I probably should send them the picture of him with his hand almost on the gun and see what they think about that. Anybody that thinks that is okay doesn't have a brain in their head. This is what you're supporting, people. You think raising a child like this is okay? Let's talk about the times Alien was so close to the fire that it singed his hair. Or another time he was so close his boots started smoldering, one of the few times he actually wore something on his feet. People, this is not okay. This is not okay. It is anti-common sense. But this is the kind of nonsense that you're supporting. If that makes you happy, you've got issues. You've got problems. The fourth thing I want to bring up is that you're also supporting moral corruption. Now, I realize in today's society, shacking up is pretty much commonplace. Having children out of wedlock is commonplace. You know, and if that's what people want to do, that's on them, whatever. But when they try to portray themselves as Christians, that's where we have to draw the line. And from what I understand, Holly is still married to her ex. So you have a double whammy. Just add adultery to the list. But that obviously didn't stop her before she met Chris, so why should it now? Shame on you people who are supporting this kind of lifestyle. And shame on them for coming on their channel talking about being blessed of God while they're living in sin. I'm totally appalled that anyone would condone this kind of lifestyle. And what are they teaching their child? Are they teaching him good moral values? Absolutely not. And I fear for him. I can almost guarantee you it won't turn out well for him. I mean, if he makes it to 21 years old without ending up in prison, it'll be a miracle. And I'm amazed, totally amazed that there are so many people that think that all this is okay. Sorry, but it's perverted. Married to someone else and then living with another man and having children with that man. You do know what we normally call those kinds of women, right? I would much rather support someone who is actually trying, is not spending their lives mooching off other people, and actually has good moral values. This is just a travesty. But that's what you're supporting. I could go on, but I need to finish this before I throw up. They make me want to puke, seriously. And you people who are condoning this and supporting this make me sick to my stomach even more. But you would think it's okay. It's totally disgusting. You know, we are to be stewards of what God has given us. What kind of stewardship is it when you take God's money that He has given you and you use it to support this kind of nonsense? You use it to support the things that I've talked about in this short video. That is not good stewardship. But that's on you. You're the one who's going to stand before God and give an account. You are the ones who are accountable for supporting this sham.